All right. Good morning and welcome everybody to the Never Stop Healing podcast. This is your host of the day, Cade Archibald, and really excited to be joined with me, Regan Archibald. Regan, how you doing?
Doing awesome.
Very cool. Well, last night we had our Health Accelerator challenges, our hack. And I was unfortunately not able to be there. I was on the road, but yeah, really excited to hear how that went, Reagan.
I think it went well, but it was a monologue. It was Reagan with the crew, and we had really good comments. Though people are doing amazing in their reset. We had some of our members no sugar for 7 days, exercising every day. We had the cold exposure. People are getting doing really well at that. People in our Accelerate Wellness programs are finding they're sleeping better. They just feel there's a sense of vitality that's been restored. We talked more about CJC 1295 and ipamorelin last night, why that combo is so critical in round 2 and restoring some of those youth hormones. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about longevity, mitochondrial function. And then, we also talked about Thymosin Beta-4 last night. And Thymosin Beta-4, the critical thing about that is it's an angiogenic peptide, meaning it helps your body create new vascularity. We've used it for patients who've had, cardiovascular events, and it's really helped them recover a lot of that ischemic tissue that got damaged in that event. It helps regenerate. It's one of the things that we've seen as we've sent patients back to their cardiologists. And so talked about recovery from workouts from Thymosin Beta-4, the fact that it's a thymic gland activator. So it's the very first genetic expression when you get damaged. Thymosin Beta-4 gets called into action, which brings stem cells into the area that has been damaged. And that's one of the reasons why your cuts heal themselves without even thinking about it. It's Thymosin Beta-4. And then more on CJC, growth hormone is depleted at least 50% by the age of 50. Nowadays, it's actually getting depleted faster and faster based on our stress levels. So talked about getting that back in and how it helps with proprioception, how it helps your muscle building, helps you recover, helps you sleep better, your skin looks better, your hair. And that's the phase 2 in the reset. And then we went into cell core and how the cell core, some of the ingredients, some of these charged particles, literally we're just turning on the light, turning up the volume. So it's kind of like a dimmer, and on your light switch. What we're doing with some of these charged particles and peptides is just turning on the switch so your body can emit more light, and the more light your cells have, the faster you can heal. So some pretty cool stuff that we covered.
Love that. That's really cool stuff. So if you guys aren't a part of our Health Accelerator challenges, reach out to us. You can also go to acueastwest.com/hack. That's HAC to join that. That is where our Accelerate Wellness members are just transforming their lives through health. So awesome. Well, let's dive in here, Reagan. So I'm excited about today's topic.
Awesome. So here's the biggest disease that needs to be solved as soon as possible, and it's this condition called aging. And so I don't know how many of you have considered this, and we've spoken about this quite often. But aging is one of those conditions that can show up in a variety of different ways. And so Aubrey de Grey is a great researcher on aging. And Kay, do you know who he is? He's the dude with the big old beard.
No, I need to look him up though. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's got a beard. It's down to his belt buckle. And
what's his name?
Aubrey de Grey. And he says aging is the only disease that we really need to tackle, because if you think about the way the World Health Organization defines aging, and now it's actually classified as a disease in the ICD-11 classifications of disease book, they define aging as that which is caused by pathological processes which persistently lead to the loss of organisms, adaptation, and progress in older ages. So one of the things that I want to kind of bring into the conversation today is just this idea that maybe there's a way we can create more vitality, more energy, if we start looking at the underlying mechanisms of what breaks down in our bodies as we age. Because I made a goal of mine to transform the lives of 1 million people by 2025, and we're well on our way. And to transform their health, that means no pain, no disease, no aging, mentally fit, people having health independence, being fun, having an active lifestyle, being physically fit, no lab imbalances, emotionally vibrant, and living with purpose. And so I said, well, maybe there's that one thing that removes 1,000, and I think it's that no aging piece of it. But Cade, are you looking up Aubrey de Grey?
Yeah.
You may want to show him on the screen. I think that'd be kind of fun.
He's got just a killer beard here. Look at this. Let me share my screen here. Look at that beard. One thing I was reading, he thinks the person who's going to live to 1,000 has already been born. Very interesting.
It's got some interesting quotes. So if you just put Aubrey de Grey quotes, you'll probably find some zingers there. But yeah, he's a pretty interesting dude. He's one of those scientists that doesn't always walk the talk. Did you find any of his quotes there, Cade?
Oh, let me see.
Yeah, he's got interesting ones on aging, but he's kind of like aging's like smoking, is just not really good for you. But yeah, and Chanel's thanks for posting that, Shawnee.
Yeah, I like this first quote that popped up. It's not just about life, of course, it's about healthy life. Getting frail and miserable and dependent is no fun, whether or not dying may be fun.
Yes. Yeah, kind of interesting, so
yeah. I like his theory on aging, though. Aging is simply and clearly the accumulation of damage in the body. That's all that aging is. Yeah.
And if you think about David Sinclair, his thoughts on aging is the fact that aging is simply a loss of information, cellular information. So it's the same. The damage causes interference in the cells, and that interference leads to a loss of communication or the transportation of information. So I look at aging as three things, and I look at this as any chronic disease pattern. There's going to be interferences, and these are interferences from biotoxins, inflammation, interferences from infections. And then there's going to be deficiencies in peptides, deficiencies in hormones, deficiencies in nutrients. And then the third thing are these traumas, physical traumas. Obviously, you can get taken up by a bus. You can just have so much trauma to your body that you can't move now. And you can have emotional trauma, and that keeps your body in this fight or flight, or this HPA axis. And then you can have the trauma where there's a loss of nerve and nervous health. So that's the HPA axis balance. So those three things are key. And even in the interferences, the biggest one we see is the insulin resistance, where insulin is such an anabolic hormone and you need it, but it gets stuck.
Yeah, one of the other ones, more mindset quote here, but I really like this one. Don't cling to a mistake just because it took a long time to make it.
That's so true. Yeah, so true. Well,
I think there's a lot of things in life that we can look at there.
Well, I think especially in medicine is we get stuck on this routine of, hey, we've always done it this way, and we've always used these medications for these conditions. And I remember in my integrated medical training in Hawaii, studying Chinese medicine there, and one of my teachers, Dr. Berg, he just said, well, doctors are really not much different than carpenters, the way that we're trained. He's an MD, and he's another dude that had a big beard, but he was teaching our internal medicine class, and he said, yeah, there's a very specific protocol. You know, when someone shows up with these symptoms and you check the box, then this is the medication. And if you're not administering that medication in the guidelines based on the AMA values and what you learn in school, then you're not practicing real medicine. And this is where for so many years, at least the first decade of my career, people would be, well, you're not a real doctor, Regan. I said, well, no, I never said I was a doctor. I'm trained in acupuncture and Chinese medicine, a functional medicine practitioner. And so it's kind of interesting, but that whole idea of letting go of past mistakes, if we look at the track record of medicine, our life expectancy just keeps dropping in the United States. And we've really got a pretty darn broken system. So yeah, great things. Allison said it's probably Regan and Cade that will live to be 1,000.
Oh, thanks, Allison.
Yeah, we might get silenced before then, but for now we're going strong. We're every day is a gift. Well,
Yes.
Awesome. Well, let's ask some questions on aging real quick. So and by the way, we're going to dive into some interesting things, but can any of you think of the areas where people have lived the longest? Do you guys remember the blue zones? We've talked about this in the past. And how many of you actually have a life expectancy goal that you've ever put in place? And this is one of the first things I learned from Dan Sullivan is as entrepreneurs, one of the things he says is an entrepreneur, you're always adding value to society. And so he says an entrepreneur takes a resource that's underperforming and raises it to a higher level. And he loves working with healthcare entrepreneurs because we're people who are always creating and innovating medicine and health, and we're bringing in the greatest technologies and the biggest breakthroughs to help our patients reach new heights of health. And so he says, imagine that you want to live to be 100, and so whatever your age is, this is called the lifetime extender question. But imagine that you want to live to be 100, and so just imagine that you're just turning 100. You're 99 and you're reflecting and you say, oh man, well, I gotta recycle the parts next year. I got to go back into the dirt. Like, well, man, I still got a lot of vitality and a lot of life. And so, what if you still had a big purpose and you still had this sense of meaning in your life? And then what if you had great relationships? You're making friends with younger people, because when you're 100, one of the things that I've learned from talking to, dozens of patients who are in their 90s, even 80s, is they lose all their friends. And so it becomes pretty lonely. So Kate, you probably experienced that when you've seen like Sierra's grandparents, they're pretty old too. And they forget to make friends with people who are younger than them.
Yeah, no, I think that's very true. Used to be very social, doing a lot of things with friends and different activities, and then it seemed like it just tanked. They moved up on the mountain and didn't socialize much.
Yeah, it becomes really easy to just be like, oh man, well, why go through the hassle? I've got, my life's just like, I may as well watch TV. And that's how I have some family members on the other side, on my wife's side, and they base their life around TV programs. I'm like, that's so funny. I'm like, that's so weird. So you're not coming to dinner because you're like, you got your show. But anyway, so you can get really stuck in your ways. But one of the things in the blue zones that they found is that relationships are a key component. So, having a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning, having great relationships. They also find, having some kind of financial stability is really key. and then obviously having, not having chronic health conditions, because so many people are walking around with what's called premature mortality. And that's when we're dying, we're slowly dying at younger ages because we're carrying around chronic disease. And the interesting thing about these chronic diseases is, in the United States at least, it adds about $11,000 every year on a financial burden. And so a lot of times what we don't realize is if we neglect our health, and I think, as someone in our community, I believe it was Diane who said, death by neglect. She was talking about her brother in one of the episodes that we had. And it was such an interesting concept, because we can just let things fall by the wayside. And then when we get into our 60s, our 70s, our 80s, the neglect shows up in ways that we don't want it to. So that's the other thing, is if you've got these chronic diseases, medication will not be what takes you through living longer. Yes, it can extend your lifespan, but it doesn't extend your health span. And our goal is to align your health span with your lifespan. And so how many of you feel like you've got great relationships in your life, and you're always cultivating new relationships? And how many of you have some younger friends? That's why I hang out with Cade. He's about 9 years younger, and so he keeps me young. And then we got lots of kids and in the family, and that creates a lot of youthfulness.
Yeah, I think kids is definitely a way to stay young. I think it's like a double-edged sword, though. I'm sure your kids like create a lot of aging and stress, but they can also keep you young.
Yes. Yeah, they really can. And especially as they get older, like my kids are teenagers now, and it's just really fun. I was talking to Dom last night about track, and by the way, Kate, Dom will be coming down to St. George this weekend. He made the varsity team.
Oh,
he's
no
a
way.
sophomore. Yeah. So he'll be running 4 events down there against Snow Canyon.
Snow Canyon. All right.
Yeah.
Well, sweet. I got to go watch him.
Yeah, Dad's going to go watch him. So go check it out. I told Dad, I said, hey, they need an extra runner on their team for their relay. And so they're going to need our almost 72-year-old dad in the race. He said, oh, they don't want to see that. Yeah, I like what Joan says. Hey, Joan, Cade's mistake quote reminds me of a quote from my son. It is okay to be bummed out about something, but the rule is no rebumming.
I love that. That is great.
Just be bummed out there, and then be done being bummed out and move on.
No rebumming. I like that. That's a good term.
Yeah. Is that what, not going back and getting stuck in that negative cycle? That's
a good way of naming it, because it's I love that. No rebumming.
You rebummer. You could call someone a name. We could have that be a medical term, like, we've just diagnosed you as a rebummer. You brought up the same negative complaint last week. You're rebumming.
Yes.
So yeah, I love that, Joan. And then Judy, tomorrow, I'm not sure tomorrow, my stepmom will be 100 in July. Holy cow. That is awesome. Yeah. And
oh, cool.
My wife's grandmother just passed away at the age of 104. I mean, she was just like a week away. So I just said, I think 2 weeks away. I was like, she's pretty much lived to be 104. And holy cow, just amazing. Anita, okay, good. Anita's cultivating biohacker friends right now. And that's such a cool group, Anita. And what I find is I feel like the old dude in the biohacker community too. I'm like, there's a lot of like the tech 20s, late 20s, early 30s, people who are very serious and scientific about their health. It's a great community. So love that. Yes. Yeah. So a lot of things. So how many of you, okay, have the age, and now you say, okay, well, I just am about to turn 100. I think I want to renegotiate because I've got, I've got the great friends. I've got a sense of purpose. I've got these relationships, and it can be family, friends, however you want it to be. Awesome spouse. I've got financial stability and security. I feel, pretty confident there. And then I don't have a lot of chronic diseases, and I know how to take care of my health. I know it. Yes, it's an investment, but I understand how to turn on these pathways and turn the clock so that I'm not expressing disease as I age, so that in the next 5 years, it's not like I'm going to, have Alzheimer's. I've taken care of my brain. Remember, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So if you're not working on your health, today is the day to start. We're going to plant the tree so that when you turn 100, you're like, man, this tree is still vibrant. I still got a lot of life. And so now you're renegotiating with the universe or with God, and or whatever, your idea is, and philosophy about who you'd have to negotiate with. I think God, Goddess, the universe is always rooting for us, by the way, if we have some intention and purpose in our life. It's like, that's when the universe will literally put together all of its resources and say, wow, you've got an intention to be a healthier version of you. We're going to give it to you. Like, yeah, it's going to take some work, but absolutely, we're going to just part the waters. And that's exactly what happened to Moses in the Bible. I don't see why it does not happen to us every day. We just don't see it. So now you're ready to part the waters, and you're going to negotiate and say, I want another 10 years. I want to live to be 110. And the universe says, all right, you sure? Does that feel good to you? And you're like, yeah, I want to go 110. How many of you would say, I want to negotiate another 10 years if you have all those things?
Yeah, if you're vibrant, you feel healthy, you have good relationships. I think that's one thing. And if you look at the blue zones, they were all like really tight-knit communities.
Yeah, and the blue zones,
Very social.
Yeah, because I mean, in the United States, we've got the Loma Linda, and that university in that area in California is, very, there's a religious component to it. So they had a reason to meet. They had a purpose. And so there's, the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica. There's Sardinia, Italy. There's Icaria, Greece. Okinawa, Japan. I just want to go visit all these places, actually. So they just found that, yeah, in every single one of them, they had these great relationships. They had a sense of purpose. Some people didn't eat meat, like in Loma Linda. Some people ate meat every day with every meal. Some people believed in having a glass of wine every day. Some of them didn't. There's the one common thread, like you mentioned, Cade, was just they had a sense of purpose and a sense of relationship. They really had a sense of community. And so one of the things we try to cultivate in this amazing health accelerator group and in Never Stop Healing is a sense of community. So you've always got a place where you belong. And even if we're separated, and hopefully now we're going to, Cade, we haven't had a wellness retreat since the end of 2019. So we may want to reconsider that now that things are more mellow and humans.
Yeah, we gotta get that going.
I think it'd be kind of fun. So anyway, we'll put some thought into that, where we can just have some nice healing arts. And we did that in the past. It was super fun. So anyway, but essentially, so you solve those problems, but now you say, all right, well, now there's a biological component. And that's really where I believe with our Go Wellness community, we had an event about 3 weeks ago, and we have the world's leaders in peptide therapy. We have Mike Caruso, we've got Justin Kirkland, Ryan Smith, we have Kent Holtorf. We have just an amazing Rolodex of people we can reach out there. In the regenerative medicine world, we have some of the best regenerative medicine, stem cell, exosome experts, who speak on our stage and share protocols and techniques. And man, the things that we're seeing, especially with the post-COVID, or even some of the spike protein damage from the vaccine. And what we're doing with regenerative medicine and peptides have been phenomenal to see just the reversal of a lot of those symptoms that people have been packing around for the last year. You know, the tiredness, not fully recovered in their lungs, just feeling a little bit of brain fog. And there's a new study that showed that the spike proteins actually can migrate in through the blood-brain barrier, and they damage parts of the brain. I don't know if you saw that research, Kate. It was just published, I think, the end of February, so just a couple of weeks ago.
No, I did not see that.
Yeah, they showed regions of the brain through a functional MRI that were actually damaged, and they found that the damage on average was between about 1 to 2% of the brain was damaged. And so, you know, I'm for a guy like me, that's going to take me out for, you know, don't take any of the percentage of my brain, because I'm 85% Neanderthal according to 23andMe. So, you know, I need all the help.
You need all the brain you can have.
Yeah, and my antibodies are still up from COVID, so that's good news. I've got the immune protection, but what's happened to the brain? So I've been, you know, making sure I'm using my Celank, getting some intranasal regenerative medicine treatments, and those things have been super helpful. But yeah, kind of interesting, right? If it's damaging the brain, that's concerning.
Totally, yes. Yeah, well, and it creates, my understanding is it creates a lot of systemic inflammation, and so that would make sense if you have that inflammation happening. Because I know that's typically they're talking about the heart, but yeah, it makes sense that it would get the brain.
Yeah,
so a lot of people, the long haulers, they're seeing a lot with brain fog is like one of those big symptoms, and so yeah, that would it makes sense.
Yeah, one of my patients.
Not good.
Yeah, it's not. One of my patients came in and he's like, I've been negotiating business deals with COVID, and it's like a really high place in his career. And he said, and I just like, it's the most detrimental thing because I can't remember numbers. I'm staying up late at night trying to compile everything. And you know, COVID doesn't ask you if now is a good time to get infected, right? It's like, it's no respecter of persons. So he said, yeah, and we treated him, and literally within 3 days, he said, my cough's gone. I can think clear again. I've got my vitality back. And so there's cool things that we're seeing from this.
Incredible. Had a question come in from Ruth. What is Celank?
Celank, you're going to have to go back 2 shows and we took a deep dive into Celank, Ruth. But it's a phenomenal, it's a nasal spray. You can do an injection. But Celank is going to be, you know, one of your best peptides to turn on the brain. It works on the serotonin and GABA pathways. It's an anxiolytic, but it's also a nootropic. So it helps with mental clarity, creativity. So yeah, great peptide, very safe, well tolerated, been studied. It was, it's been around for about 20 years. Cool. Well, so if we look at the biology, so now we got mindsets, and you guys are like, well, cool, I'm going to renegotiate with the universe, and you parted the waters, and the universe says, okay, you want to live to be 120? No problem. That's fine. But you got to take care of your health, and it can't be like once a week. It's got to be every day. And this includes the things that we don't think about. We just think about the foods we eat. If we go exercise and push it, those things are a little more controllable. The things that are probably more challenging is creating balance in relationships. So I've just finished having about 2 weeks with nonstop company at the house. And so I love it because it just like, I dwell in chaos and unpredictability. My wife is the opposite. She loves predictability and she loves things to be, you know, dialed in. And so I can feel this sense of relief over her, and because now she's got like the stable environment. So you really have to look at things as you're cultivating the future for yourself. Make sure you've got a balance between creating new relationships, but making sure the old stable relation, not old, old's the not a great word for, but the relationships that have been around a long. Yeah, existing. Thank you. Yeah, old relationship sounds like they need to be dusted off, or got like you need to take it out back and shoot it. It's like this this relationship's gone shitty. So, but don't shoot the person. By the way, that could be taken the wrong way. I'm gonna take you out back and shoot you. You just pissed me off today. If someone can still piss you off, you've got a relationship with them. By the way. How many of you have someone that can piss you off even though you haven't seen them in 5 years? You just think about them and you're like, oh.
Yeah, there no rebumming though, right?
Yeah, no rebumming, Joan. Okay, it looks like we had another question. Diane says, is this due to someone having had COVID? Yes, this was a patient who got COVID. And we've seen this dozens of times, time and time again. So the biology that you want to think about, there's a study called the 9 hallmarks of aging, and it's very interesting because what they did is they looked at each one of these hallmarks of aging. So what I'm going to do, just as we go through this, I'm going to rapid fire, if that's okay with you, Cade, just rapid fire these 9 hallmarks of aging, and then just share with you some things that we're doing to help our members of our Accelerate Wellness community transform this hallmark of aging. So should I share my screen on this so people can see?
Let's do it.
Okay. Okay, so 9 hallmarks of aging, and look this up on Google if you're like, where does this come from? But it's a very interesting study where researchers said, yeah, there's a few things we need to look at. Number 1 is genomic instability. So this means the amount of genetic damage through your lifespan that can either cause you to accelerate in your aging or decelerate. That's why you can see 2 identical twins and they live 2 totally different lifestyles, and they come back together 20 years later, and one of them looks a lot older than the other one. If you see somebody who's done like methamphetamines, cocaine, things like that, you just look at their mugshot by the time they get arrested versus what they look like 2 years ago, and they've aged 20 years. I mean, it's crazy. So these physical, chemical, and biological factors start impacting the DNA replication. So aging, you want a perfect photocopy of the DNA, and it's the peptides that are cleaning up these. You've got these little alleles, and you've got all these methyl groups. You've got over 1 million on every DNA strand, and all peptides are doing is cleaning up those methyl donors and those methyl groups so that you can get a better expression. That's one of the reasons why we use the cell core, because it's a charged particle that's bringing nutrients right into the DNA so that the DNA can express health. So for genomic instability, the very first peptide we use is Epitalon, because Epitalon helps reset the HPA axis, so it takes your body out of that stress mode. And then the telomere shortening that happens through this, chronic cycles of stress, the Epitalon has been shown to lengthen the telomeres. So that's, you can use cell core, the foundational series, and then Epitalon. Telomere attrition, once again, this is where Epitalon helps in. But telomeres, what researchers have found is that they protect the integrity of the cell. It's almost like when you have great telomere health, it's like pulling the shoestrings on your laces, and it keeps your shoes tight so they don't fall off when you're walking. And so there's several ways you can improve your telomeres, but one of the ways is through antioxidants like glutathione. And so you can do a glutathione spray, you can do glutathione injections, IVs, but glutathione and your B vitamins are great ways of protecting the telomeres. And then once again, Epitalon is the best peptide for the telomere attrition. So pretty powerful. All right. The next one is epigenetic alterations. And so, Kate, do you have a good definition of epigenetics, something that might make sense to people?
I looked, so epigenetics is, it's the genes from, I don't have a good articulate way, but it's
You're right.
the body's ability to it's the environmental and external factors
That's it.
that affect your genes, as opposed to, if you have this one gene, you're doomed. So I think
Right.
that's what a lot of people believe, or what's been kind of taught is, okay, well, if your dad had a heart attack, you're gonna have one, so watch out.
Right. There you go. Yeah, and that's it. And so epi just means above, and then that's above the genes. So what we've learned is there's ways you can express.
Ruth nailed it. Your genes load the gun, environmental and lifestyle pull the trigger.
Yeah, that's a good quote. I love that.
Is that Mercola that says that?
Yeah, Ruth, I don't know. We're going to give the credit to Ruth, but
that's Ruth.
Yeah, that's Ruth. So well done, Ruth. You guys heard it first here. Well, even though all right. So epigenetics, that includes your gut microbiome. So how many of you have had your stool test done lately, or your metabolomics, because all these things feed in. So the reason why we love the metabolomics test is because it shows us from a very, very pinpointed perspective how you're impacting your genes. This is where, as we age, that starts to cause this unraveling of our DNA, because you lose testosterone in men. That's a dangerous thing. Women, you either have higher levels of circulating estrogens because you can't metabolize those because your gut's off or your liver's not functioning well. That causes damage. But aging can also impact growth hormone, which is what we talked about earlier with the CJC 1295. Lifestyle. All these things impact your epigenetics, and they cause an alteration in a different expression in your genes, and then obviously your nutrition and your diet. So these are all big things. So one of the things that we do for epigenetic alterations is BPC 157 to help heal the leaky gut, or KPV to keep the membranes really solid. So if you have healthy membranes, so you don't have that leaky gut, or that breaking apart of those endothelial cells in your gut, then you're not going to have as much exposure to these external forces. From the foods we eat, there's going to always be some kind of chemical in them. So repairing those intestinal barriers are the best thing you can do to treat the epigenetics. So KPV, BPC 157. Loss of proteostasis. So this is where we look at the proteins. Proteins are so critical. So one of the things that you can do, and we're gonna introduce this very soon, but looking at your macros. So think of your body weight, and all of you in our community are active. And so what you want to do, oh, good. Anita just got her, I guess that's the metabolomic, or the comprehensive gut results today, the ombre gut results. That's awesome. Well done. And Ruth got that from Del Bredesen. Okay, perfect. Thanks. We'll give Del Bredesen credit. He's awesome. So if you think about the proteins, so getting one of the things you can do for this loss of proteostasis, meaning you don't denature the proteins properly, and so you have these refolded proteins, and these misfolded proteins, especially in the brain, can be one of the reasons why you don't get the building blocks that you need for good neural health, and this is where diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia shows up. And so the quality of the proteins is really important in your body, because that's the building blocks of the next cells. And that's what your DNA uses before they photocopy the DNA, is they're bringing in proteins and they're creating these new structures. So one of the very first things you want to do is get your body weight and healthy proteins. And animal proteins seem to have more complete chains of amino acids. And so that creates better communication cycles. So that's one of the first things you can do. The other thing that you want to do as far as improvements in breaking down these proteins is making sure there's no infections in your gut. And that's where LL37 is a really important antimicrobial peptide that you can use there. Also going through those 4 phases of care with CellCore, the Para 1 and Para 2 help get rid of parasites, bacterial infections. really powerful. Doing that protocol at least once per year can be helpful. All right, number 5, deregulated nutrient sensing. So this is when you have a loss of growth hormone in your body. And growth hormone, the workhorse for it is IGF-1. And so IGF-1 helps your body produce new osteocytes, chondrocytes, and muscle. So it's the nutrients need growth hormone in order to start building muscle mass. Otherwise, you have sarcopenia. And so the peptide that we love for this is tesamorelin. Tesamorelin is a growth hormone secretagogue. You combine it with ipamorelin so that you have this somatostatin inhibitor, and then your body can really start building muscle. And you'll put IGF-1 to work. Well, you can even use the peptide IGF-1, and that's a phenomenal combination to build muscle mass and to help improve nutrient sensing and getting good sleep. So get to bed by 9:30. You guys have heard this before. And then ideally wake up around 5:30. All right, mitochondrial dysfunction. Remember the 9 hallmarks of aging. Number 6 is mitochondrial function. Number 5 was deregulated nutrient sensing from a loss of growth hormone. Number 4 was loss of proteostasis, meaning the uncoupling and of proteins and building of healthy protein structures. Number 3 is epigenetic alterations. Number 2 is telomere attrition. Number 1, genomic instability. And so let's go to number 6, mitochondrial dysfunction. We talk a lot about mitochondrial here. Thousands of mitochondria in every cell, but when the mitochondria get dysregulated and they have dysfunctions, that's when disease starts to show up. And specifically, this is where you get cellular damage, because the mitochondria is like the engine of the cell. And if it's not producing energy for the cell starts to atrophy and it gets weaker. And that's why we say we want to bring light into the cell, and it's the mitochondria that are like the battery pack, and that allows your body to glow with health and vibrancy. And then mitochondria also can decrease reactive oxygen species, so they help remove any kind of inflammation. So this is a really critical one. So the best peptides, Mots-c is your mitochondrial derived peptide, SS31, 5-amino-1-MQ. These are great ways to mitigate this mitochondrial dysfunction. It's very powerful. Then we have the mito drops, the CT minerals. Getting the right mineral balance, the right hydration can be some of the best things you can do for your mitochondria, because it activates the electron transport chain, which helps bring the nutrients into the mitochondria so that it can create ATP for you, which is your energy. Okay, number 7 is cellular senescence. Now, cellular senescence is when your cells have what's called a Hayflick limit, and they turn over about 40 to 50 times, and then they start to plummet on you. They don't have the same vibrancy. And this is where getting some very healthy regeneration in your body, Thymosin Beta-4 is one of the best peptides that you can use to do that. Zinc thimulin's another one. ABP7 is another one that's regenerative by nature. These are great ways of turning off that cellular senescence. And then some stem cell repopulation. This is where we've got the V cells, the very small embryonic-like stem cells that we can pull out of your blood, activate it with a laser. Or you can look at also some of the most powerful like allografts. So there's great things available for cellular senescence. Stem cell exhaustion. This is the 8th component. Once again, replenishing your body with stem cells is really key. You can do this through fasting. That's a very powerful way. There's also studies on using different allografts to help activate stem cells. PRP has been shown to even activate stem cells in damaged tissue. Looking at your joints, making sure those don't wear out, and then replacing old cells with new ones. One of the best ways you can do is CJC 1295 with ipamorelin and IGF-1. Once again, activating growth hormone has been shown to cause better stem cell turnover and proliferation. And then number 9, altered intracellular communication. And so this is very critical because it requires a healthy brain to orchestrate everything in your body. And so this is where we look at Cmax, we look at Celank as some great treatments for creating great intracellular communication, and then detoxification. So, Chinese herbs, there's some great detoxification herbs in Chinese medicine that we use to keep things clear. So hopefully that is, you guys just got an overview of some great things, the top 9 hallmarks of aging, and then treatment strategies to go along with that. So how was that, Cade?
That was amazing. Some really, really good stuff here. And I think it looks like a lot of people are wondering how they can get this content in the future. So we also publish this on our YouTube channel it's the East West Health YouTube channel, as well as our podcast, Never Stop Healing. You can look that up on iTunes, any typical podcasting group. You can also go to yourhealthyself.com, and it has all our recordings there listed. Amazing content today, Regan. Man, I'm like blown away. So many cool things.
Cool.
Let's see. It looks like we have a question came in from Diane. I have a question regarding limiting sugar. Is having a sugar-free latte okay once in a while, or is sugar-free just a lot of crappy chemicals?
I think that's a great question. It depends. I think doing anything every once in a while is going to be okay, but the best is using like monk fruit or stevia. Those seem to be okay. But those are kind of some best mitigators for that sweet tooth in all of us.
Yes, I believe. Yeah, the sugar-free. Yeah, if it's fake artificial flavors, those are the ones you want to avoid. So yeah, if you're at a coffee shop, I just ask them how are they flavoring it. And if they're adding like some syrups and things, it's probably not the best. But if it's, made like even honey on occasion, obviously honey's going to have sugar, so don't do too much or else you'll break your challenge. But awesome. Well, great questions. Once again, thank you, Regan. Awesome information and content today. Just like never-ending flow of information and knowledge there. My favorite part was no rebumming. I'm going to start using that on a regular. So
that's a good
so much,
one.
Joan.
Thanks, Joan.
I love that. And we'll be back same time, same place next week, everybody. And love you very much. We'll see you next time.
Cool. See you guys.